Hello, sports fan, and welcome to the Packs for Breakfast All-Star Team. The battery, the baseball, the pitchers and the catchers, and the catcher. Um, every Sunday morning, Chris and I at 6 a.m. Mountain Time, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, we do we open a bunch of card packs, and we come up with all-star teams from the year that we're doing. This was the 1992 Upper Deck. This is the second 1992 one that we've done. So this is our pitchers and our catcher. This was the battery for that team. We have our closer in Rob Dibble. We have our starting pitcher in Brett Saberhagen and our catcher in Benito Santiago. Benito Santiago was a fan favorite guy. It's like, I don't think he's not going to be considered one of the greatest catchers to ever play the game, but he did play for a lot of teams. He has a pretty good amount of accolades too. I mean, he was a 3-time Gold Glove winner, 4-time Silver Slugger, so he was a good hitting catcher. He was a 5-time All-Star. He had 217 home runs, batted .263 in his career. So he was a very good catcher. He wasn't just the solid catcher. He was a very good catcher. For a while with the San Diego Padres, he wore the number 09. He was the number 9 for a long time, but he wore 09 for like the last 4 years in San Diego. And, you know, when they asked him why, it's like I guess it had more to do with the fact that he didn't like that the 9 was obscured by his catcher gear. You know, the catcher has the strap on the back that holds the chest plate on. So he didn't like that the number 9 was always obscured by that. So he went to 09 so that it could be seen. I also heard another thing that it's like, for some reason, the number 9, of course, on those authentic jerseys is raised. So it's not just embedded into the thing. It's a raised number that's stitched on. And I had heard that he didn't like how that felt with the chest protector on and that strap going over it. So, I mean, there's two different stories to that. I mean, both of them seem feasible and neither one of them seem out of the realm of possibility. It's like the closer for our team was going to be Rob Dibble. Rob Dibble was a member of the Nasty Boys. The Nasty Boys, I remember the Nasty Boys very well. Norm Charlton, Rob Dibble, Randy Myers. They were 3 amazing bullpen guys, and they threw just nasty stuff. They were hard throwers. The thing that always kind of got away from me in my memory, I thought Rob Dibble was the actual closer for most of those games. Turns out Randy Myers was the primary closer. But Dibble did have 11 saves in 1990, and he had quite a few career saves to begin with. They also won the World Series in 1990, and those 3 were a big part of it. So Rob Dibble was a hard thrower. He did have a lot of saves in his career. He had 89, well, not a lot, 89. He had less than 100, but he was a bullpen guy for pretty much his whole career. He had a 2.98 career ERA. He played with 3 different teams. He only played 8 seasons total. Most of them with the Reds. It seems like he missed the 94 season, so he may have only played 7 seasons. And he split his last year with the White Sox and Brewers. But I remember him as being more of a badass than maybe he really was, but he was. For a very short time, he had some nasty stuff. This is the 91, the 92 cards are based off the 91 season, so they were a year removed from their World Series in 90. But he was still an integral part. Randy Myers and Norm Charlton and Rob Dibble only played 2 seasons together. Also a surprise. I thought they played together a little longer than that. And then we have Brett Saberhagen. Brett Saberhagen, the starter. Now, I always liked Brett Saberhagen with Kansas City. I really did. One of my favorite pitchers. He was a World Series MVP, and he won a World Series, of course, in 1985. He was an extremely good pitcher. 167 wins, 117 losses, 3.34 ERA. A little part of his career, he got traded to the New York Mets or ended up on the Mets in some way. Halfway, he was having injury problems that year. Halfway through the year, the Mets traded him to the Rockies, who wanted another starting pitcher because they were in the middle of actually making the playoffs. I know it seems weird to say that the Rockies were making the playoffs, but in 1995, they made the playoffs, and they traded for Saberhagen to kind of give him another good pitcher to hopefully get him over the hump. But he had some more injury problems with us. The Rockies were actually eliminated by the Braves, who won the World Series in 95 that year. And the Rockies had only been playing for 3 seasons at that point and had made the playoffs. Saberhagen missed the entire 96 season due to injury, but still had 2 more decent years left in him when he went to Boston. And he had like a 15-8 season and a 10-6. So he still had a couple of more decent years left in him after that. Saberhagen, here's the thing. None of these guys made the Hall of Fame. It's like none of them put up the numbers to make the Hall of Fame. Benito Santiago would have been maybe the guy that you could give a little bit more of an argument to, because he was a pretty good hitting catcher. But he is in the San Diego Padres Hall of Fame. But this was the battery we came up with. The thing was, it's like, I've always wanted to put Saberhagen on one of these teams. We might have had a pitcher or two that could have been a little bit better, but Saberhagen, for around this time, he was really good still at this time in 91. So 91, 92 season. Of course, Santiago was great, and Dibble was still part of the Nasty Boys in 91 going into 92. So they had still, I think 92 is when they started to disassemble, because I think that's when Randy Myers left. He might have went to the Padres. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, so that is the pitching battery. The last up would be the outfield that we have. And that's All-Star for now.